Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, coming to you 6 days a week as we interview whitetail experts and hear their traditions and personal stories of the hunt. Learn more about the latest gear, discover proven tips, and the latest strategies so you can make your next hunt a success. Now, here's your host, Bruce Hutchin.
As host to Whitetail Rendezvous, I want to say thank you. Thank you for almost 100,000 iTunes downloads. Thank you to the 300 guests who've been on the show. And thank you to over 30,000 followers on social media. Couldn't do this show without every single one of you. And secondly, sometimes the sound quality isn't radio quality, isn't recording room quality. It is what it is. People might be in a tree stand, a box blind. They might be sitting in their pickup truck on a hillside. Or they might be traveling to and from a blind or home from work. They're all over. And because of that, sometimes the quality isn't what you would expect or would have hoped for.
This is Whitetail Rendezvous Podcast, episode number 303.
Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. This is your host, Bruce Hutchin, and we're going to head out to Utah today, and we're going to meet up with Chelsie Wilkey. Chelsie is a ReelCamoGirl, and she just loves hunting. She's grown up in a hunting family, over 20 of them, and she was the only girl that hunted. More than that, she's got drive, determination, and she believes in supporting women in the outdoors. It's going to be an exciting show. She's going to tell some great stories, so listen up. Hey, listeners, don't forget to text 33444 Food Plot for your free Food Plot ebook. Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. This is Bruce Hutchin, your host, and we're heading out to Nephi, Utah, and we're going to visit with Chelsie Wilkey. And Chelsea's on pro staff for ReelCamoGirl. Chelsie, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Say, I'm really excited to talk to you, and I know when we connected on Facebook, you said you don't hunt whitetails, but you know you've been hunting everything in the West, that's for sure. And when we talked about the three things you were passionate about and women in the outdoors, so let's just start with that and help me understand where that passion came from, and then we'll just go on from there.
Perfect. So I live in a very small community that does not have very many women that hunt. In my family, there's like 20 of us that hunt, and I am the only girl. So when I find somebody else that is a girl that likes to hunt, it is very nice. So once I found ReelCamoGirl, which is a community for women in the outdoors, it's nice to share your experiences with that, and that's kind of why I'm really big on that. Because, I mean, you can talk to a guy about it, but they just don't understand how difficult it is to be a girl in the outdoors. Because you can walk into Cabela's and they've got racks and racks and racks of men's clothing, and then there's one little tiny rack of women's clothing. And so it's nice to be able to talk and figure out where the best places to get stuff is, your experiences, learn from one another. And that's really why I like it so much, because I can connect with women.
Let's just talk about that connection, because I understand completely. I had a little gal, Chrissy Morale, down in Georgia, and she is a little gal. She's 5'2", and she said she gets so frustrated going to stores, archery shops. She's a tournament archer and quite a huntress herself, but the guys would literally talk over her to her boyfriend, and they would just keep completely miss her, and she's the one that's going to be buying the stuff. How do you handle that, and what can you tell to the listeners across North America that they should do? Forget about the negative. Let's go on the positive, and let's talk about that.
So I can actually attest to that my husband is the one that gets talked to every time we go in to find me a new pair of camel pants or a new pair of boots. I mean, we want to find the best boot possible for our area because it is a rugged area, but it's like I'm not there. So I just kind of jump back into their conversation so that I can be a part of the conversation. I mean, it's kind of you kind of feel out of the loop, but a way to do it is just to say, hey, these are for me, and I'd like you to kind of talk to me about them as well. You know, have you sold them to somebody else that has really enjoyed them? Do you know anybody personally that has enjoyed them? Then that way that kind of focuses it back on the woman's side of things, and they can kind of round themselves back and get back to the product and what the product is really for. And I've done that many times, and it's worked. So
why do you think guys do that?
Because there is not very many women hunters out there. We're steadily growing, but we've grown about 11% in the last couple years. There's been 11% more women in the outdoors, and steadily growing, but it's still just like a rarity to find, you know, women that really do hunt. And so they just assume that you're there with your husband because he's drug you along.
Yeah, and listeners, women in the outdoors represent the fastest growing retail segment of the outdoor industry, period. And you can get all the data you want on that. But the thing I'm just going to echo, you know, if a lady walks into your store, asks you a question on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever, she hunts, and she deserves the same respect as guys give each other just because, you know, guys hunt and women don't. Wrong. That's the wrong thinking. And if I can do anything with this show is change your thinking out there, guys and retailers, because women have the money, they have the passion, and as a past fly fishing instructor, they were a heck of a lot better fly fishing than men because they listened to their instructor. Your thoughts on that, Chelsie?
I totally agree. Every woman that I have talked to, if they decide that this is what they want to do, this is really what they want to do. It's not just a hobby. It's something that they want to do for their life, for their family, and they're really in it to win it. Everyone that I've talked to, they've been in it to win it.
I like how you say that, in it to win it, because, you know, it is a game, but guys, if you've gone to the top of the mountain and where Chelsie lives, there's some rugged stuff in Utah. There's no question about it. You got – I'm just thinking coming on 15. Help me with the mountains I go through when I leave Grand Junction before I get over to when I pick up 5970. What is that? That's not the Henry Mountains. What mountain range is that? Above Richfield.
So above Richfield?
Yes, ma'am.
We just call it the Rocky Mountains. Each peak kind of has their own name.
Okay.
Usually it's just called the Rocky Mountains or the mountains down by Richfield. Us here in Utah do not go by the real name here.
Okay. And
because if not, we would have no idea what people are even talking about.
That's funny because, you know, I-70 goes right through them, you know, and I stay overnight at the Hampton Inn. Shout out for the Hampton Inn at Richfield on 15, but that's where I stay, and I can run that pretty easy from Colorado Springs when I'm heading out to California. But I love those mountains, and I'm always thinking, I said, I got to stop there. I got to glass that. Oh, my goodness. You know, there's some great terrain in there. And there are, you know, watch out for elk signs on it. Now, do you ever hunt those Rocky Mountains? Or tell me where you hunt in Utah.
So I actually hunt Mount Nebo, and it's just literally 5 minutes away from me. It's my backyard view, and then my front yard view is the Red Cliffs, which is just south, just right across the road, basically, from Nebo. So we just hunt basically, it's the Central Mountain Unit is what it's called. And so it spans from Payson down to Levan, that whole mountain range right there.
And what kind of critters do you hunt in there?
Elk, deer. They do a few moose tags, ducks, geese. You name it, we've got it, except for whitetails. It's the only thing Utah doesn't have. But everything else, we've pretty much got it.
Well, there's rivers and river bottoms in Utah, so that sooner or later they're going to get there because they came out of Kansas through Colorado. There's following the Arkansas, and there's places now on the Arkansas River, 8,000, 9,000 feet, because it's all river bottom, and there's whitetails there. So it's just a matter of time because they're just moving west, or Idaho has some great whitetail herds and great whitetail hunting. So it's a matter of time. They'll be there.
One day.
One day. Well, tell me about your hunting heritage. You mentioned you're the only girl in a family of 20 that hunts. How tough was that to break into the family tradition, if you will?
Well, I was the only child in so my dad kind of just raised me and, introduced me to it, and it just started from there. My mom wanted me to be a little girl that wore dresses, and I ended up being a girl that wore camo. So I usually am the one that guides our family. I go with my husband. We set up all the game cameras, and I learned how to clean my first deer when I was 6, and now I teach others around this area how to clean their own deers, how to process them, all that good stuff. But yeah, I just was introduced. I went on my first deer hunt when I was just a baby, few months old, and ever since then I've been going every year, and I've never stopped.
And I remember I'm trying to think, LaSalle Mountains, and we were up there archery hunting one fall, and I couldn't believe the families. And it reminded me, I went to school in Wisconsin, married a gal from Wisconsin, and I got introduced to the Wisconsin hunting tradition. And in Utah, the tradition, the family tradition, was the same thing, because we're talking to guys in the camps, and there's young kids and moms and dads and some gramps, and I mean, it just really a neat experience. I thought it was, and I hadn't seen that out west, because typically out west it's smaller camps, but where I've hunted in Utah, I mean, it's a family affair, and I think that's awesome.
It is, and every UEA weekend is what it's called for the schools here, and that usually falls on the rifle hunt, the rifle mule deer hunt, and everybody goes camping. That was like the last big hoorah for the year. Even if they don't have tags, they still go. My aunt and uncle actually just moved to Hawaii, and they actually flew back for the deer hunt to go camping with us and my grandpa up at our property. So it really is a big thing. And up Nephi Canyon, every campground has about at least 5 trailers in it with a ton of people. So it really is awesome, and you run into some great people when you're out in the hills. It's like a national holiday, I guess, here is how you could put it.
Yeah, and folks, if you've never experienced that, just check it out. I'm sure there's plenty of YouTube videos or someplace in social media, but it's a heck of a tradition, and good for you. And let's talk about wildlife management. That's one of the things that you wanted to talk about on the show. So let's talk about what that means to you.
So wildlife management is a big thing here, just because Utah is known for their big mule deer. I mean, it's no secret that Utah grows some big mule deer. Depends on what area you hunt in, though. And the reason being for that is because of the wildlife management. I mean, when you find a good set of genes, that's a good set of genes, and everybody's going to want to go hunt them. So in limited entry, that kind of helps condense the numbers down to where the herd can keep growing, but it can be managed so that there is not too many animals running around, so they don't, I guess, starve to death. You know what I mean? There's not ever enough food, cover, or water in the winter here. One day snow depths could be 8 feet, and the next day it could be 80 degrees. That's just typical Utah weather, and it really is hard on the animals. Like right now, we don't have much snow, but temperatures are down around 10 to 15 degrees during the day. At night, they're in the negatives. So the deer have moved down into town because all the food has froze and is no longer good up on the mountain. So we've got them in town eating our flowers, our grass. The golf course is full of deer. So with wildlife management, that helps keep those numbers at a manageable number for the area. We don't want stuff getting overran. And it is terrible when you're out hiking and you come across an older buck that has died over winter. It's just terrible. And I think with the wildlife management side of things get monitored better, animals get monitored better, and the success rate for hunters go up.
Now, do you go to meetings, the wildlife meetings, or when you have an opportunity to voice your opinion, do you do that?
Yeah, actually our community, like mostly the Facebook page, the DNR Facebook page asks for input. They were asking like where the deer herds were and stuff because they move so much during the winter. The herd that we've been watching moved from the peak of Nebo clear down to our golf course. That's several miles. So it's hard to keep track of them. So they don't really do meetings here just where we're such a small town. I could travel, but usually through Facebook, social media is a good way to get your opinion out on it. You know, questions, concerns. A lot of people had concerns about the doe to buck ratio this year. And now that it has become winter range, I can totally see those numbers. But when you're hunting, it seems like they're hiding from you. So everybody has their concerns, but that's usually how I do it.
Thanks for that. And another thing you mentioned is about the ethics in hunting. You called it ethical hunting. Why don't you unpack that for a little bit?
So with ethical hunting, I mean that in the way that you find, retrieve, and use your animal. So we're not known, our family isn't known for shooting the biggest deer, but we usually get one every year. And we usually do eat the meat, or else it gets donated to families that need it. Everybody loves some good old deer jerky. So by that, I mean, when you're out scouting for your animals, you want to be respectful to the environment. That is their home. So you don't want to go out, ruin the trails. There's many trails that have been ruined that have good animals on it. And you just can no longer ride your four-wheelers on them, your side-by-sides. So ethical in that way. You want to be ethical in your scouting. You want to be ethical in your hunting. So you want to make a clean shot. Everybody knows that. You want to hit those vital organs. So you want to put in your time, your practice. I don't archery hunt just because it is such a challenge here in Utah. I'd like to get into it, but I usually do rifle or muzzleloader. So we put in the time, always the money, but time to make an ethical shot. You don't want them to suffer. And that's my biggest thing. I would like it to be a good, clean kill. And then you want to be able to take care of your meat afterwards. And I see a lot of pictures of meat that's in dirt, and it makes me cringe. And I'm like, you want to take care of that because that's what's going to feed your family for the winter. And it really is. We just had our first set of back straps off the little meat buck that I killed this year. And it is a good feeling to know that you put in that time and that effort and you get a reward in the end.
Now, with a family the size of 20, I'm sure a lot of people taught you. What recommendations would you give if somebody says, especially a woman, she says, I've never dressed a deer. You know, I've never killed a deer. Now, how do I change it from the hoof to, to my freezer, then to my table? What recommendations would you give?
Take your time. I mean, it sucks coming back with a full pack at midnight, but if you need to take your time, take your time. My very first deer took me probably 20, 30 minutes. My husband's first deer took us, I think, like 45 minutes. But he was asking questions, and he learned a lot from it. So take your time, and the end result is always worth it.
Now, do you have any recipes on your Instagram account or Twitter account or Facebook account?
I actually just made a backstrap recipe from the other night, and it will be up on the ReelCamoGirl website here shortly. There is actually a lot of good recipes shared on there. I will also share the recipe on all of my social media formats so you guys can get it. There will be more recipes once we start doing more deer. We're going to probably do some deer sausage for Christmas, so I will keep you guys all up on that. That's always good. So, but just follow, and I'll start posting recipes. I don't usually post them, but people have been asking, so I will start posting more recipes for you guys.
And, you know, I've got a few homegrown recipes passed down through the people that I hunted with. FYI, I started hunting in Wisconsin 50 years ago, and I got ingrained into, you know, the family farm that I hunted, and we still hunt that today. And, man, they got some great recipes from, you know, I'm going to say the old country. Some of the German recipes is just unbelievable. And you don't know you're eating venison. That's all I can say.
Yep, exactly. If you marinate it right, you never know.
So you mentioned social media. How does somebody reach out and connect with you on social media, Chelsie?
So you can follow me on Facebook underneath my name, Chelsie Wilkey, or you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter underneath Central Mountain Yarrows, or you can just search my name as well, and you should be able to find me.
Hey,
and if you can't find,
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to switch it up, but finish what you were saying.
I was going to say, if you can't find me either way, that way you can usually find me through the ReelCamoGirl page as well. I'm usually pretty active on there as well. So,
tell me about the European mount business that you and your husband have.
So that started as just a hobby, and then it kind of grew to, well, I'll do my family members, and then it grew to, well, we'll do our friends, and now we're doing a lot of people in our hometown. I have a lot of people that if they get from like Alabama, Wisconsin, all that, if they get deer, they're going to ship them out to us to do them. So it's slowly growing. It's kind of still new, but we've actually done, I think, almost 20 heads this year, and last year we did 5. So it's growing rapidly, and that's actually really good numbers for this area to get that many deer in.
Yeah, you know, and tell me about that process and what it, share with the listeners across North America why, you know, European mounts are alternative to a regular shoulder mount.
So they are a much cheaper option, but they're also a much better conversation piece. I mean, you can walk into somebody's house and they've got a full mount. Of course, that's a deer or an elk or mountain lion, whatever they've got mounted. But to have an actual skull with the antlers mounted to it, you know, people think it's a fake skull. And so we end up cleaning it up. This year we've boiled heads. Next year we are going to get beetles. Clean the heads, and then we bleach them, make sure everything's good, white. We do not let them leave unless they've got bright, sparkling white teeth. You know, that's a United States thing. You want to have bright white teeth. And then we clear coat them, and then we give them back to their owners. Either we do just the head, or we can mount them to a plaque. So just depending on where you're going to put it, we can do whatever you would like.
I hope you heard the comment about the beetles. So expand that a little bit for the people who don't understand how beetles go into the equation here.
So they're actually flesh-eating beetles, and you stick the head in like a fish tank full of beetles, and they will eat the flesh off of it in about 24 hours. So usually we will just skin the head and then, you know, clean off any excess, and then you can just stick it in and let the beetles do all the work for you. And then you can just spray it off when they're done, and then you can start your bleaching process from there.
And there's really no flesh left, is there, on the head?
No, there's not. They eat everything. Cartilage, and you can't leave it in there too long because they'll start getting into the more spongy bone. They'll eat that too. So you got to keep a close eye on them. But there is nothing left. It's pretty much white when you get it.
So that's, news for everybody. And, try the European mounts because like in where I live now, being retired, I have a smaller home, and I sold most of my mounts before I moved in here. And then, but the ones that I'm going to, collect and stuff, I'm really thinking about the European mounts because it is a more conversation piece, and the upkeep there isn't any. Right?
Yeah, there's not. You just need to make sure it's dusted, and that's about it. We clear coat it, so it's good to go.
That's exciting.
Do what you want.
Yeah, and it's great business. Now, do you have a separate website for your European mount business?
So I actually don't have a website set up yet. That is in the makings here, but I do have a Facebook page, and that is just Central Mountain Euros. I am actually going to do a giveaway once we hit 150 likes. So I just barely started that page just because the business is now kind of starting to boom. So website in the making, but you can follow all of my mounts on the Central Mountain Euro page on Facebook.
And so, folks, let's get her over 100 by Christmas. As soon as she finishes the show, I'm going to go like the page. But let's just do it for kicks, and then whatever she's going to give away, maybe one of the listeners, you'll be one of the lucky recipients. Hey, talk about your doggy mom, 2 awesome pups. What's up with that?
So we ended up getting a silver lab. She's more of a charcoal color in the spring. And we have trained her to be a waterfowl and an upland and shed hunting dog. She's actually doing really great for being almost 11 months old. We actually just got another dog because I wanted one, but the excuse was that our other dog needed a friend, but don't tell my husband. But she is actually doing really good. We actually got her to sit on the very first day that we had her, and she is doing really well with the bird training process. I will be doing a video on the ReelCamoGirl page about puppy training. So as soon as I get that up, you guys can go check that out. But yeah, she's doing really great. Remy, my silver lab, she will be going on her first waterfowl trip this weekend. It's finally gotten cold enough and the weather right that geese and ducks are finally moving in here. So we'll see how she does. She does really good with the decoys and the canvases and all that. So we'll see how she does. I'll keep you guys updated on that. The other one is just going to go sit in a blanket and hopefully learn something.
Now, have you shot over Remy, the one that's going to hunt this weekend?
Yes, we actually have. She has actually done really well with upland game. The pheasant hunt is only a week here, and then we have the extended, and that's also a week. And she jumped her first hen, and she looked at us like we were nuts because we didn't shoot. I mean, she doesn't know any difference. It's a bird. But then she ended up jumping her first rooster, and we got that. Then she didn't quite know what to think about it, but once she figured out that she could retrieve it, then it's been awesome with her since. And all she wants to do, you move the shotgun, and she's at the door waiting for you to go. She loves it. So
that's great. You just sound like you and your husband got a great life there. You got a great family of support. And one last thing I want to talk about, your goal about being a flight medic. What's that all about?
So I actually just finished my EMT course last Thursday, and I passed my skills test, my national skills test, and then I just need to go schedule my national written test, and then I will be a EMT. I actually work as a trainee here in my hometown on the ambulance, and then I will start as an EMT as soon as I pass my written test. As soon as I pass that, I will go take my advanced test, my advanced EMT test, course and test, And then after that, then I can apply to paramedic school and then go from there. Wow. I have to have so many years as a paramedic, and then I can apply for the flight medic course and then do all of that.
Now, do you have a airport right there in Nephi?
Yeah, so we actually have an airport, but we do have Air Med stationed at our hospital here. So they do awesome things. And we actually have the sand dunes, so we would be able to patrol that. And so that's kind of cool. So
you're an adventurous lady, aren't you?
I am.
Well, we're coming up to the time in the show, Chelsie, that you get a few minutes to give some shout outs, and then we'll wrap the show.
Oh, perfect. I'd like to thank my parents. They were the ones that got me started in this. And then, of course, my ReelCamoGirl family. The girls on there are awesome, and I don't know what I would do without them. They're like my sisters. Of course, my husband. He has been the one that has been with me every step of the way. He's the one that's complaining that we're going up a cliff, and he still does it anyways. He's the one that helps clean all the deer, pack them out. And without him, I wouldn't be able to do any of this. So thanks to my family, my friends, everybody that supported me all the way. And hopefully we can all go out and have an adventure sometime.
Well, I look forward to that. That's for darn sure. So, Chelsie Wilkey, on behalf of the thousands and thousands of listeners across North America, it's just been a joy to have you on the show today, and I wish you and your family a Merry Christmas.
Well, thank you. Merry Christmas to you as well.
Hey, tune in for our next episode. We're heading out to Pennsylvania and hanging with Matt Pitzner. Matt is part of Keystone Wild Outdoors with Steve Rocco. Steve was on the show just a while back, so Matt graciously agreed to share some thoughts on the show about hunting in Pennsylvania.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.